Welcome to Dance Fit Biz Builders. I'm Orit, dancer, instructor, and proud owner of a thriving belly dance fitness business. And in this podcast, I'm giving it to you straight, sharing what it takes to kickstart and grow your dance and fitness business for the success you deserve. Whether you're a seasoned instructor, a passionate performer, or dreaming of turning your love for dance and fitness into a thriving career, you're in the right place. Lace up those sneakers and pull on those dance shoes and get ready for truth smacks, tips, and inspiration. Let's do this. Hello, and welcome to episode 59 of the Dance Fit Biz Builders podcast. I'm Orit, and you are in for a treat. I'm about to introduce you to a beautiful, a wonderful dancer, a business owner, kick-ass, everything. It's badassery all around. And his name is Kamra. Kamra, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Oh, me too. Me too. And I'm excited to talk all about business because our audience is they're dance fitness instructors, they're fitness instructors, they're dance instructors, yeah. Or just even enthusiasts, yeah. So, and you have a fascinating story in what you've done and what we're going to talk about it. But first, my question is, what pulled you into this world of dance? And when did you know it wasn't just going to be a hobby?
Sure. So I really loved dancing as a kid, and I wanted to be a dancer for a long time, but I was sadly fat shamed out of it and kind of stopped, didn't really think about doing dance or anything until I was an adult. And a friend of mine and I needed an exercise routine. I was really sickly. I had a lot of asthma problems. I was on all this medication that made it really hard for me to move. So I really needed something that was low impact, that was fun, that I could stick to, that would get me out of the apartment, that kind of thing. And I found, this is how long ago this was, the Vina and Nina VHS tapes, the belly dance twins.
Okay.
Yep. So I found their VHS tapes on sale. That's how long ago it was. And then I just started doing them. My friend, she kind of dropped off, didn't continue with it, but I did. And then I found an instructor and kept going. So it was kind of an accident. It was just kind of like, oh, these VHS tapes look like fun. Why don't I just try it? And then found out that I was actually really good at it. And then as terms of turning it into more of a career than a hobby, it was actually when, my first teacher was American Cabaret, and she was heavily influenced by Suhaila and all those, kind of that side of the belly dance world. And I loved it. I loved the music. It was fun. I just thought it was my weird little hobby that I did to get out of the house and exercise and all that. But I didn't really want to go for it as a professional until someone in my hearing, I don't know who it was, I don't remember who it was anymore, but someone in my hearing said Gothic belly dance. And it was like, I can do that? I've been lifelong goth. So I'm wearing, I know you can't see it on the podcast, but I'm wearing my Beetlejuice t-shirt today. So yeah, like lifelong goth, and just being able to dance to music that has meant something to me my entire life, even though like I love Middle Eastern music, I've connected to it, I love it, but something that I was able to connect to for something that's been in my whole life basically was really, really good for me. And it was like, oh, okay, this is what I need to do now. This is it.
Excellent. Wow. Cool. Wait, but first of all, remind us again, where are you from originally?
So, well, that's a hard thing to say because I've been all over. So I was, when I first started belly dance, I was in Louisiana, which is where I grew up. And then I started taking classes for the first time in Arizona. And then I was in Chicago for most of my professional dance career.
Wow. Okay. So Gothic belly dance. So who did you take classes from?
So technically I've always been a Salampur style dancer, primarily with Suhaila. I had a really hard time finding teachers that did fusion in Arizona, where I was. And so I started taking a lot of online classes. So Datura came out, but before that, I actually got Ashura, she's now going by her legal name, Abby, so Abigail. But at the time she was still Ashura, and she had a DVD out, which was all Salampur style, but it was her modern fusion DVD. And so I did that religiously every day. And it was so hard, but I did it every single day. And then I took any classes that I could get, any workshops that I could get from other fusion dancers, and then also other, like more Rakshurki style, more traditional style. Anytime I went to the Las Vegas Belly Dance Intensive, most people stayed on like one track. They always had like the fusion track and then like the cabaret track. And I would just go ping pong back and forth between them because I couldn't decide. I loved all of it. I wanted to do all of it. But fusion was just a lot of fun for me because I could dance to the music. The costuming was a little bit more up my alley, but I've changed a little bit. I love the glitter and sparkles and stuff now. And it was actually my transition that kind of helped me reconnect with my love of the more traditional styles of belly dance because I wasn't feeling like I was trying to project someone who I wasn't. And I felt before I transitioned, I was like, I called getting into makeup, getting into drag because it was just, I just felt so uncomfortable in it. But now I've been able to reconnect it because of that transition.
Gotcha. And now if you just can like keep people up to date, like when you say transition, what does that mean? Because they don't know you.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a transgender person and I was assigned female at birth. So that means that, through most of my life, I thought I was a woman, but I was very uncomfortable as a woman. I was very uncomfortable with projecting femininity as a woman. And so when I started to see other people, I actually started to explore drag as a drag king. So drag kings are usually, drag is, gender doesn't matter, but usually assigned female at birth people who are dressing as men. And I started doing a little bit of drag. And then it was like, oh no, this is how I'm supposed to look all the time. So I started a medical transition and I transitioned into being a man.
Congratulations. Okay, so Gothic belly dance. Oh, by the way, I love Las Vegas Belly Dance Intensive. That was an intensive. Too bad it's no longer there. Yeah.
So kind of along the business sort of lines, when I first decided that I wanted to be a professional, my goal was to teach at the Las Vegas Belly Dance Intensive. That was my 5-year goal because at the time you had to have been teaching for 5 years to be accepted as an instructor there. And so I worked really hard. I, did everything I could. I set all my goals. I, broke them down into small pieces so I can figure out, okay, how am I going to get to the Las Vegas Belly Dance Intensive? And I did it. I actually got booked to teach there, but that was the year that it died. So I technically didn't actually teach there, but I still count it because I got hired, I was signed the contract, I got put on the website. I just didn't actually get to teach.
Good for you. Congrats on that. You did it. You made your goal. This is the thing that when I've been, just researching a little bit more about you, you got to drive, Kamara. Drive. It's just, I really admire that about you.
Thank you.
You do the shit. You do it.
I do. Yeah. Right. I set goals. That's actually one of the things, not to, put in like a self plug here, but I do workshops where I teach people how to meet their goals and how to set goals even for dance, especially if you are a busy person, like if you have a day job or kids, or if you have disabilities that make it very difficult to set yourself like a set time for dancing. So I have a bunch of workshops that I do. I have a huge workshop it's like a intensive that I do for that. So yeah.
We have to talk.
Yes.
Okay, great. Good. I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. So when did you become professional?
um, it's kind of hard to say because, it's like, what does professional mean? Does that mean like when you first start accepting gigs for money, or do you think it's like teaching? So I know everyone has kind of a different definition of what professional means. And for me, that was when I felt like I was capable of accepting any gig and having something ready for it. So I wasn't scrambling. I wasn't, going like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do for this, or that I would feel unprepared. So I started performing. I actually did dance in restaurants. My first few couple years of being a professional, I danced in restaurants. So I got that experience and was able to handle, all the different things that come out of that, doing restaurant dancing. And then just knowing how to teach the best way that I can, especially beginners. I think it's really, really important that we're really knowledgeable to teach beginners. And so when I felt like I wasn't struggling so much anymore for certain things, or like when I would go to classes and I wasn't struggling so much, that was kind of like, I feel like I've reached the level where I can pretty much handle anything and everything that is thrown at me. It might take me a little bit to catch up, but I'm ready to handle it. I didn't feel overwhelmed. And for me, that was kind of when I decided that, like, I think I'm a professional, even though I've been accepting gigs for money for a little while. This is like, I'm now ready to handle anything that's thrown at me in a professional manner.
Wonderful. And I love how you said that it's really important to be a really good, confident teacher to teach beginners. And especially just from the business aspect, that's where the money is. Because most people, your beginner classes will be your packed classes.
Yep.
So it's super, super important. I'm glad that you said that. All right.
Yeah.
So you're a pro in your head, in your mind, right? Now what? Now what? What happened next?
So I started teaching. So when I moved to Chicago, that was kind of when I started my professional career. And so I started teaching there. I taught at a studio that was called Arabesque for many years, and started teaching, like getting on the workshop circuit, trying to get that built up. And then COVID. So I was in Chicago for COVID, unfortunately, but I had started, getting a little bit more notoriety. And then when COVID hit, of course, the kind of the I don't really want to say backlash, but like the domino effect from COVID was that a lot of different studios that were in Chicago closed. So Arabesque closed. There was another one called Pineapple Studio. It closed. There was one other studio that, the teacher wasn't really doing a lot of teaching anymore. So like all of the core belly dance teachers stopped teaching in the area. And then a bunch of others retired, around that time. So there was just this void left. And so I was actually, a dancer friend of mine told me about a space that had been a burlesque studio, and it had been like the dancer went in, put in mirrors on every single wall, and then was there for like 3 months and then quit. And so there was this space that had been open and vacant all through COVID, but the owner of the space would just go in there on Saturdays and clean it up and spend the afternoon with his buddies playing cards. But he kept it up. He kept the mirrors up, but it wasn't being used. And so the rent was super cheap. And so my friend told me about this space, and I went and looked at it, and Drake and I had gotten together by this point, and we were like, what if we just started our own studio and fill the void? Yeah. Right?
Awesome. And during COVID.
It was after, so technically after the lockdowns had started. So, during COVID, everyone went online to teach classes, and I've had mixed success with online classes. Sometimes they do really, really great for me, and part of that is because it's been very hard for me to be consistent with it, which is the biggest problem. But so my online classes have been kind of trying to build them up a little bit, but which I hope to do again now that I'm in Portugal. But yeah, so it was after the lockdown really happened, when people were ready to start coming back in person, was when we discovered the studio and decided, let's just go for it.
If we could just do a little rewind for a moment. When you had said, okay, I'm professional now, really, you're a business now, right? You're exchanging money for your services. Yeah. So did you do anything? Did you become a legit business then?
Yes. So initially, because I was basically a sole proprietor of my dance business, I just started with a DBA, so doing business as. And so that's what I've maintained, because that's been kind of the easiest for me, like as an individual, for like my own personal dance business. So, I just was able to do the DBA, I did get the employee identification number, super easy, free from the government. Those people that tell you like, oh, give me $99 and I'll give you an EIN, are not, you don't need to do that. So I just did the DBA and then have been using that pretty much the entire time. And then when I set up the studio, we kind of talked about how we wanted to structure the business. So I have my DBA. We started, so Arcanum was the studio name. So we started the LLC for Arcanum. And that was Drake and I, we split it 50-50. And we were thinking of moving that underneath his LLC. So Drake has an LLC, Dancing Dragons, and moving Arcanum and then my DBA under that also. So we have kind of an umbrella corporation, I guess. And then we can, share all of our income and split it and, kind of join forces to promote and get our names out there. And we want to do we're calling it like Belly Boys tours together. So, you get like two for the price of, two, but, for cheaper than one, or cheaper than two altogether. Right. So it's been, we're kind of finding the structure that works for us. We're still working through that for the Arcanum, especially right now, because I'm in Portugal, the physical space isn't there anymore under my name. I did transfer the business over to some friends of mine, and they're running the studio. They wanted to continue the vision, basically. And so they took over the physical space, but we will have Arcanum Online. We kind of have Arcanum Online, but it's not officially called that yet, but we're trying. So we're still working through things, but things are slow because I'm in Portugal and then Drake is doing his PhD. So we're still having to work through a lot of things for that.
So you have the experience of starting a business, just you, sole proprietor, and then having a business with a partner. So that's like, there's a lot going on there. You had to learn. But as your own business, before your partner came in, what did you do? Like, did you look up online? What do I need to do first to become a business? Was there like an outline, a blueprint?
I was actually really lucky in that I went to, this is going to seem like a tangent, but I went to massage therapy school, and kind of right at the same time that I was trying to go professional as a dancer. So it was a little bit before, but kind of at the same sort of time. And part of the massage therapy school was how to start a business. So we got classes because a lot of massage therapists are sole proprietors or they're independent contractors. Some start their own physical business. Sometimes they go into business partnerships with someone like, a chiropractor or, an herbalist or, acupuncturist or whatever. And so they actually taught us all of the different stuff. So like, what's the difference between a DBA and an LLC and an S corporation and all of that stuff. So we got all of that, which was amazing for me. So if you can find, I'm sure there's always resources online, but a class that can just tell you like, here's what an LLC is, here's how it's different from, an S or a C corp, and how to pick what's best for you because it's going to affect how you do your taxes and all that stuff. So, ew, taxes. But, you got to do it, unfortunately. So having that class was really what helped me. And so I've just been kind of modeling my business after what they recommended in terms of, what's the easiest for taxes, what's the easiest for setup. Sometimes you have to go on the cheap, and DBA is great because LLCs can be really expensive to set up depending on where you are. And I think they've recently lowered it, I think, but an LLC used to be $500 in Chicago.
Ooh.
So that was very painful. And so I was like, I'm not doing that, but it was like $50 in Arizona. And I had actually started a massage LLC in Arizona because that's where I took my massage therapy courses. And so I started the LLC there, but when I came to Chicago, it was just so expensive. I was like, I'm not going to start an LLC in Chicago. So I just did the DBA because it was much cheaper. It was free.
Wow. So would you say maybe if people don't know where to go, probably the closest SBA facility might be the best way to start maybe?
So going to your local SBA is probably good. They have websites that you can, a lot of times you can even email them and talk to them for free. And there are resources out there that are really easy to use. Just stay away from AI.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. Good tip. So, can you tell me now that you are in partnership with Drake? Tell me about the great things, the challenges of being in partnership.
Sure. So he was in on the Arcanum studio from the beginning. And so I had my DBA and he had his business that he had been, I'm not entirely certain how he had structured his business when he was doing his own personal business. I believe it was also like sole proprietor DBA, but I don't quite remember, but I know that shortly after we started Arcanum, he got his LLC for his Dancing Dragons. But, so he was in the Arcanum from the beginning. And when we saw that studio, we were like, I think we can do this. The rent is really low and we were going to have very little overhead. And, it wasn't like a whole bunch of deposits and we weren't going to have to put up huge numbers of mirrors. We ended up just doing a GoFundMe to fund the floor and startup costs and all that. And it was very successful. And so Drake and I, we kind of saw eye to eye on everything, like how we wanted the studio run, the splitting of the tasks. He's very organized. So, and of course, I'm ADHD. I'm the one with 3 million tabs open and, can't remember to do the thing that someone told me to do unless I write it down and don't lose the piece of paper. So, it was very good that he was organized. So he kind of kept us on track in terms of here's the tasks that we need to do. And then I would go and do them. And then he did a lot of the startup stuff and, setting up of the systems, because we knew eventually that he was going to go into a PhD program. So we were kind of setting the business up so that if and when he left, we knew it was going to be when. We were hoping it was not if. But if and when he left to do his PhD, that the business would kind of continue to run with me just updating the kind of on the schedule side of things. But everything else would have a system that would just keep running, and I would just need to do updates periodically on it. So he was great.
That's great. Oh, great to have a partner like that. Now, what about promotion? Because a lot of our listeners hate to promote.
I know promotion seems like the worst thing in the world. And I struggle with promotion and stuff too, but I found the idea of there's the hard sell and the soft sell, and then there's also the idea of seeding. So my my posts, like on Instagram, some of them are just, like, I'm having fun today. I'm just going to post up some, some silly picture, or, like, look at this amazing, beautiful thing that, picture that was taken of me in France or whatever. But some of the things that I post are, like, look how much fun I'm having in class. Here is the technique that I like to do, because my brand is very much technique focused, like excellent technique. I have the workshop killer isolations, all that. So everything's very technique focused. And so I will, instead of being like, hey, come and take my workshop, because Instagram will squash that. You'll get, I have almost 24K followers on Instagram, and 20 people will see that come to my workshop post. But if I have this kind of, like, look how much fun I'm having. Isn't this a great time? Here I am in class having fun with all my students. Then that gets thousands of views. And then people are like, oh yeah, I really want to be in class with you. I should sign up for a class. And so that kind of stuff, instead of feeling like it's marketing, feeling is kind of like you're cultivating your people. So you're trying to find other people who want to do the same things you want to do, or the type of people you want to reach. And instead of just hard selling stuff to them, you just cultivate them and be like, here's what I'm creating. Is anyone interested in this? Look how much fun I'm having. Don't you want to join?
Of course. I mean, everyone needs to see what you're doing first before they buy. It's like going to a grocery store. You're going to look at the apple first before you, like that kind of, right. No one buys stuff anymore based on, time, day, what it is. Boom, they're coming. That's not going to make me move my ass.
Nope.
I want to see what I'm getting,
Yeah.
But you seem to be very comfortable doing video anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's really important. Is I know some dancers struggle with video because they either don't know how to do video, or they're not sure if their videos are very good. And a lot of that, and I understand that, because we all want our stuff to look very professional and put together and all that. But the video that went viral for me on TikTok, which has 34 million views, which is absolutely insane to me. That's like Lady Gaga level views on like 34 million people have seen me dancing. And it was the video. I'm not exaggerating. I had had a long day. I had had a long practice. I was sweaty. I was shirtless. And I was like, okay, I'm done with my practice. I'm just going to take a quick break, and I'm going to scroll TikTok really fast, and then do my stretches. Basically, it was just like I needed a brain reset before I go into stretching. And so I was scrolling through TikTok, and I found this really cool sound that was like reggaeton, but it had some, like, a little bit of belly dance to it. And I was just like, oh, this is fun. I have got to just, dance to this. I think I did 2, maybe 3 takes, and then just tossed up the best one, and then 34 million views later. So it doesn't have to be overproduced, especially, I mean, it will depend on the platform, but especially on TikTok, people want to see authenticity. So that hard sell kind of stuff, which I know people really struggle with, doesn't do well anyway. So, show people what you can do just by having fun, putting yourself out there, just putting video up. It doesn't matter if the video is not great, because if people see that you're having fun, that you're doing what you're doing, they're going to want to do it. And so I feel like marketing in that way doesn't feel like marketing then. It doesn't feel icky, because that hard sell feels icky, because you're just, you're like, I'm trying to get these people to buy my stuff and nobody's buying it. So, why am I doing this and all that? So I feel like if we do that cultivation more and being authentic more, then people are more willing to listen to you, and are more willing to follow you and want to do what you're doing.
Yeah, that was gold, what you just said. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Also, to be in it for the long game, like, it takes time.
Yep. You got to cultivate. It's like, I am not a gardener, so I'm sure someone is going to be like, that's not how that works. But you know how you plant bulbs and they, like, sometimes take like a year or 2 to grow? we're not planting grass. We're planting bulbs. They take a while to get up there and blossom.
And so let's say just when you want to teach a class, and let's say you're teaching for a facility versus you producing your own class and you getting all the money. Where do you start there? Do you research other dance schools, other gyms? Where do you go from there? How do you figure that out?
Yeah, I try to look at other dancers in my area. I know that I'm going to space on her name at the moment. There is a website out there, I wish I could remember her name now. It's ADHD brain, but she has a listing of like what people charge by area, so like by state and sometimes by city. What people are charging for like bellygrams or private lessons, or and sometimes some of the classes get on there as well. It's not everything for every area. It's just information that she collects from dancers in those places. And so I kind of do research on that website. And then I also look at what other people are charging. And, like moving to Portugal, like I can't keep my USA pricing in Portugal. And so I have to think about, like, where am I? What dancers am I reaching? What area is it? Because I'm sure people who are dancing in the middle of nowhere, Iowa, have to charge different prices for, Bay Area, California.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so if I'm doing a workshop there, I'll maybe talk with people from that area and be like, okay, are people going to pay $30 for a workshop, or is that too much? Is it going to be more like 25 for a workshop, even though that's really low for a workshop? If people aren't going to pay $30 for it, then,
Right.
So I know it depends on area. So I look at the area and then I see what other people are offering. And then I kind of haunt the Biz of Belly Dance Facebook group and go through there, and I'll search that group and see. There's also another group. I think it's Belly Dancers Promoting Professional Ethics. And so people will occasionally post conversations about, like, okay, what are your pricing? How do you price? Do you price your online classes less than your in-person classes? Do you record your in-person classes and then offer that at the same price as an online, or do you discount it? And then how would you reckon that with people being in person paying a higher price than people online? So it's just kind of like it's like deciding for yourself what feels right. Yeah.
And those who are listening who are fitness instructors, there are groups out there for the fitness professional that are like that: ethics, the business, and all that stuff, and pricing. So talked about Portugal. Why'd you move there? Business, personal, what?
It's a little bit of, it's mostly personal. It's mostly personal. So not to dip too much into politics, but because it's just part of, being a trans person, politics has been mixed in with my life. Unfortunately, my very existence has been politicized, and so I don't really have much choice in that matter. But with the rise of Trumpism, all of these anti-trans bills, there's over the past 2 years, we've seen a rise over 600 bills, anti-trans bills. And then this year it's 800. So, like, the USA is not a safe place for trans people right now. And I'm a queer trans person, so that kind of like doubles the problem. So I needed to find a place where I felt safe, where I didn't feel like, because my, when you transition, I transitioned all my documentation also over, but I was unfortunately born in a state in which they do not allow you to change your birth certificate for any reason. For any reason. It doesn't matter. Your birth certificate, that's how it is. And so my birth certificate, both the name and the gender marker on my birth certificate are very different than my legal court. Like, the court in Chicago was like, yes, this is now your name. So my legal name in Chicago and, everywhere now is different than what it is on my birth certificate. And I cannot change that. And now they're trying to take passports away from people whose names and gender markers are mismatched from their birth certificate. So I could have my passport taken away. And so, it was like, I can't stay in the US anymore. So I decided that I needed to find a place that I could potentially permanently immigrate to. And I did a bunch of searches, found places that were LGBTQ friendly, that were offering fairly easy paths to citizenship. And Portugal was kind of the one that consistently came up. So there are places that are a little bit more LGBTQ friendly. I think Spain is usually considered one of the best places for queer people, like ever, anywhere, ever. Thailand is another really great place for trans people. I have a friend on TikTok who just moved to Thailand, and a lot of Europe is really great for queer people in general. But Portugal was the one that came up consistently as being a safe place that had a really good immigration. It's 5 years to citizenship. So that's less than most places. So it was just kind of everything for that in terms of my personal safety. And then lastly, I'm a software developer as my day job, and Portugal, especially Lisbon, is a up and coming tech area. So it's still like, there still isn't a lot here, but it's up and coming. And so I felt like this was going to be a great place where everyone in the tech industry in the US is absolutely struggling to find a job, that it would be a little bit easier for me here to get a job in Portugal. And that was true. I literally just signed the contract for my day job today. So, yay. Thank you. So it was mainly just for my personal reasons, but then also for it is a good tech market to get into. And then for dance, my dance business, being in Europe, the belly dance scene, I think, is a little bit healthier here. It's a little bit bigger in terms of just the number of people who are coming to festivals more regularly. The festivals may not be as big, but they have, like, the classes are full, and it's really easy to fill a class. And so I think people are very eager to get into the dance here. And so Portugal is kind of like my entryway into the rest of Europe. It's relatively easy to get other places from Portugal. And then I haven't been there yet. I really want to go, but just across just a very small amount of water is Morocco.
So can you tell us about your strategies that you've been using to rebuild your dance business there?
Sure. It's been going a little slow, but I knew that was going to happen because everything in Portugal moves a little slow, and that's fine. So every now and then I just got what's called it's your NIF. So it's your financial number, and it's the key. Like, you have to have a NIF in order to open a bank account. You have to have a NIF in order to do like all sorts of stuff in Portugal, and it normally takes a couple of days to get it, but it took me 3 weeks to get mine. And it was fine. It wasn't, I wasn't in any hurry. It's okay. But I would check up. There was a lady who was doing the NIF paperwork for me, and I would check in with her every now and then. And her first time was like, "Welcome to Portugal." And I was like, "That's fine. I'm cool with that. I'm not in any hurry. Just checking up just to see what's going on." I don't know if you know, but a couple of weeks ago, we had a massive blackout, knocked out everything in Portugal, all over Spain. And that set everyone back. So everything is still catching up. And so that was why it took 3 weeks. So everything goes at a different pace here, which is totally cool. I'm great with that. But the main strategy I've had has been networking. So I've reached out to dancers that I knew were here in Portugal. So I would go on social media and look for dancers in Portugal. I looked up their websites and reached out to them and were like, "Hey, I'm coming in. I would love to, come in for a class, maybe teach a workshop, see what, or people are interested, and it was very low stakes for them because I'm like, I'm already here. You don't have to pay for my plane ticket. You don't have to, advertise this big, huge person coming in, like I'm trying to bring in Suhaila or Zoe or, someone. And they're like, how am I going to, pay this person? It's like, I'm already here."
Right.
So it was easy to reach out to them and be like, hey, host me for a workshop. And I've had great luck. There were 2 dancers who were like, yeah, absolutely. I had one who hosted me for a workshop. That went over really well. And then I had another dancer who had actually been looking for a fusion instructor to come in and teach at the studio where she teaches. So I just slid right in, super easy. So Susanna's been really great for that for me. So I'm very, very, very grateful for her for that.
I want to talk about the not so glamorous stuff. When it comes to like just being a business owner, studio or just by yourself, what is one thing that people didn't warn you about being a business owner?
I feel this may not be a great answer. I feel pretty warned from being a massage therapist. When I was doing all of that, the classes and all that, they were like, it's hard. You're going to spend a lot of time. You're going to lose a lot of money. It's going to be hard to build your base clientele. And that translates very much over to belly dance. You have to get a core clientele. You have to, it's the long, slow slog, basically, to get everyone to actually understand what you do and want to join you and all that. And so I do feel pretty warned about that. I think though the hardest part for me has been coming to terms with the fact that because I have ADHD, it's very difficult for me to be organized. And so I think that has complicated things. I think I would be further along than where I am if I did not have an organizational problem. And I've been putting systems in place, and I had systems for a long time, and then the pandemic kind of broke them up. But slowly kind of like getting back into those systems, to make sure that I keep up with all of the mundane stuff that, like no one likes to do. And I feel like if I had had a little bit more guidance and how to work with my ADHD and how to set up organization systems that work with my brain, that would be more helpful to me. So I think that's kind of the only thing was I wish I had been warned about a little bit more, was that the ADHD is going to make it much, much, much harder to do. But I didn't know I was ADHD, so I couldn't really be warned.
I get that. But it seems like you've always pushed through. What is it, a mindset shift that you had to tell yourself? What is it? How do you stay in your lane all the time?
Some of it is mindset. I think, we talked about, I'm very driven. I have those goals that I set for myself, and I know how to break them down into smaller parts in order to make them achievable, so that you get that, they call it like a snowball effect. Mm. So it's really hard, like if you think about like, I need to cause an avalanche. Mm-hmm. How are you going to do that? Like, it's too big to even think of. Like, what's step 1 of causing an avalanche? I don't even know. Mm. And so this idea of snowballing it, where you're like, okay, well, I'm going to start really, really small. And what's the first step that I can take right now, today, when my brain is set, like I have 20 minutes to set, my brain is set to go, what can I do right now? And keeping that momentum going of like, okay, I've gotten that little thing done. Now I can do the next little thing, and then the next little thing. And then every time I accomplish one of those tiny little goals, my brain is like, oh, look what I just did. And so the next goal doesn't seem as hard. And then all of a sudden you're looking back and you're like, damn, what did I just do?
Oh, so Kamra, so, I was listening to one of your other podcast interviews, and I really feel like you taking martial arts really attributes to your confidence, to your drive. I mean, the fact that you won a competition.
I got 3rd place, yeah.
I mean, yes, and you placed. That's amazing.
I was in world championships too. I fought against people. I literally fought a girl from Russia.
With how many years experience for you?
I was still a white belt at that time. And so I had only maybe had a year of experience, and I got third place in world championships. Yeah. But I mean, it was with other people who were also white belts. So it wasn't like I was trying to find a black belt.
Sure. What? Wow.
Yeah, it was a great accomplishment. I have a huge trophy.
Amazing. And so just like, I guess you have the skill of picking up new movements quickly, I guess. It's just goes right into your body and you just get it right away. Love that.
Yeah, I feel like I have a really good mind-body connection. And a lot of that, and this is going to sound very strange, but I try to talk about this a little bit because I know there are people out there that I'm trying to reach also that struggle with this sort of thing. So being neurodivergent, having ADHD, I also have autism. A lot of autistic people STEM. So they'll do repetitive movements. So if people kind of know about like rocking, and I STEM by doing glute squeezes and shimmies.
I love it.
So like that sort of stuff, like the very rhythmic, double-sided movements are really good for people like me. And so because I kind of consistently do it, and because I've trained my body to do that a lot, I pick things up really quickly. And then belly dance for a long time has been my special interest. I like this is going to sound like another complete divergence, but my very first belly dance workshop was with Helena Vlahos, who is an amazing dancer, because she lived in Phoenix and I was nearby when I first started going to workshops. So she was my very first workshop with any other dancer other than my first teacher. And the way that her words, I wrote them down. I still remember them to this day. And she's the reason why I dance the way that I do. She showed us a shimmy and she was like, I don't want to shimmy my leg. And then she points to her inner, like one of her quad muscles, and just shimmies that one muscle. And she's like, I want to shimmy this muscle. And she's pointing to it and it's shimmying just that muscle, like not her whole leg, just the vastus medialis of her, her quad was shimmying. And it was just like, oh my gosh, I need to do this. And so it became that kind of like obsession of extreme isolation. I wanted to pick out how can I make a belly dance movement with only one muscle or one small group of muscles so that I can use all my other muscles for all the other things that I want to do. And so that just extreme focus was what kind of carried me through learning belly dance and made it interesting to me. Like drilling wasn't a drudgery. It was still hard. I'm not saying it was like, I'm going to go and have fun today and drill. It was still like, oh my God, why can't I get this? But it pushed me through it and it gave me that mindset of I will get this, whether it kills me or not,
Well, that is so special. You're so unique. And it's such an advantage that you have. That's a
I like to think so, because sometimes it's not an advantage.
a real special gift. So we're going to wrap up, but I wanted to ask you, what would you tell someone who wants to go into entrepreneurship, whether it be dance fitness, or just fitness? And how do you get them off the fence? What would you tell them?
Wow, how to get them off the fence. It's so hard. I mean, I would definitely say just go for it, like crunch the numbers and see that it might be easier than you think it is. It's not going to be easy. I'm definitely not saying that, but I think it's because a lot of people, it's that whole idea of like, how do you start the avalanche again? Like how can I start a business? How can I start this? I have this great idea. How can I start it? Just break it down into small little pieces and do the first step. And you don't even have to keep going with it. If you're like, nope, never mind, then you haven't really invested all this time and money and all this stuff. You've just taken one tiny step. And that breaking it down into a small piece and just doing that one little piece and just going for it is, again, like how you build momentum and how you actually get yourself off the fence anyway. Like if you need that motivation, that's actually one of the things that I talk about in my sustainable dance practice is there's actually no such thing as intrinsic motivation.
Okay.
You can't motivate yourself into a habit. It's like your brain just doesn't work that way. And it's scientifically proven. I'm a scientist in my background. I've done a lot of like looking into neurology, like all this neuroscience and all that of how we form habits and how we get over like executive dysfunction, how we actually initiate things. And you can't motivate yourself. There's no such thing as that internal motivation. There has to be some sort of external thing, or there has to be some sort of transformation within yourself to be like, I'm going to do this. And so you have to find a way to get yourself to actually get off your butt and do that one little thing. And starting small is the best way to do that.
It's been such a pleasure to speak to you. Can you tell our listeners where they can find out more about you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for having me. First of all, it's been a pleasure to be on. This is great. But I have a Patreon where I talk about a lot of different things. It is more belly dance focused, but they can find me on Patreon. That's patreon.com and it's /Kamrah Belly Dance. So KAMRAH Belly Dance. And then I have social media. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on like literally everything, just as Kamrah Dancer. So they can find me there and follow me there. And then I have kamrahdance.com, which is my main website. And that leads to, I don't have my sustainable dance practice stuff up yet. But because I kind of shut that down. And then I'm going to try another cohort soon. But my newsletter is there. And then that's how people are going to learn when that next sustainable dance practice cohort comes up. And then all the other classes and stuff like that I have going.
Great. Thank you so much, Kamrah. I would love for you to take us out with our signature outro.
So, all right, everyone. Thank you so much. And until our next episode, keep kicking ass.
Woo! I love it. Thank you, Kamrah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yay.